Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being on our program today. Today is a very special show. I can't emphasize how important it is and how excited I am. And this is an idea of putting together persons that are in different parts of the nation who are outspoken, have ideas, are very interested in the political process, and want to share their thoughts on this panel today of asking the questions, what do Latinos and Latinas think about the GOP nomination? Now, this show happens one day after the Republican National Convention just completed itself, and I don't think it was a major shock. That's its outcome, but we sort of want to reflect from a Latino perspective, and we're very fortunate to have an East Coast, West Coast perspective, and we're going to share that today. Let me introduce our speakers very briefly today, but their background is really impressive. Maximo Anguiano, he's an actor, athlete, creative personality, organizer, scholar, and politico out of San Antonio, Texas. So that's a handful. That's a lot of things to do, man. He has emerged as one of the most talented and dynamic individuals of his generation, one of the leading intellectual voices on the intersection of cultural, social, politicos, and education. Maximo is a champion for the Latino community. Thank you very much for being on the show, Maximo.
Hey, thank you for having us, Armando, and we appreciate you and for setting up this forum. And I'm happy to be here. Looking forward to mixing it up with y'all.
Yeah, I like that. Mixing it up is the key word here. Jonathan Marcantoni, he's a Puerto Rican novelist. I had the pleasure also of having him on the show before. And Jonathan is a novelist and a co-founder of Ignos. Did I say it right? Ignos Publishing?
It was I know.
Okay.
I know.
His books, Traveler's Rest, The Feast of San Sebastian, The Kings of 7th Avenue, deal with issues of identity, corruption, and moral decay in both Puerto Rico, diaspora, and on the islands. He is a co-founder, along with Chris Championi, of the University Project, which mentors new writers. That's awesome. That's an awesome project. Jonathan holds his BA in Spanish Studies in the University of Tampa, and he does creative writing from Tiffin University. He lives in Colorado Springs. Beautiful, warm Colorado Springs in Puerto Rican up there. That's really good. That's really a mouthful.
All right, we are a mile closer to the sun, and that is actually rather hot.
Let me do a disclaimer here. We did send an invite to Latinas to also be part of the panel. We're not able to get a response, but we did try. We will continue trying in the near future as well. So with that, let me give each one of you sort of a moment to introduce yourself and to sort of set the perspective of what you thought about the convention and where we are today.
Well, this is Maximo, and I guess I'll start it off. And listen, the GOP convention was certainly entertaining. And from a comedian or stand-up comedian's perspective, there are tons of, I guess, fodder for us to choose from every single day and every single night of the convention. So we have to say thank you to the chairperson of the GOP convention for setting us up with all of that initially. Secondly, look, the GOP, the Republicans, they got their man. Look, you got what you asked for. You got Donald Trump, who's the new face of white supremacy, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. Hey, the chickens have come home to roost. Now, it isn't sure. We're not sure, I guess, if the people have sort of infiltrated the Republican establishment or if the Republican establishment got their man. Either way, he's going to be on the ballot. He's got a strong following. And many people said that he wouldn't be where he's at when he first started this thing. Well, folks better wake up because he could be the president come January. He's got a very strong following. He's got momentum. And look, people believe him. A popular tactic of any businessman, whether you're a con artist at the top of a pyramid scheme or whatever, is getting people to believe in you. And he's got people to believe in him, for better or for worse. And I know, as you mentioned, the topic of this conversation was what Latinos think about him. Well, I can tell you what this Latino thinks about him, and I think he's a rat. Listen, most Latinos I know, you go over to the west side of San Antonio on Commerce, General McMullen, you can introduce them to any of our Theos and Theas, and they'll tell you within 5 minutes what this person's like. And look, our people, Latinos, we're a spiritual people. We go off vibes. We go off of energy. And we can smell a rat better than pest control, let me tell you. So Look, the guy's a snake. We know that. So folks better wake up. These guys continue to get into office, whether it be the local, county, regional, statewide, but they also get into federal positions because people don't vote. It's as simple as that. We know many, you can look at the data, some people get into office in a city as big as San Antonio by some 2,000 votes. Hey, wake up, folks. Your vote matters. Your vote counts. You deserve to be heard. And look, put it this way. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to win the election. So you want to have your vote go towards it, or are you just going to sit on the sidelines? Look what's happening.
All right. Jonathan.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I didn't get to say it after you introduced me, but thank you for having me on the show, and it's great to meet you, Maximo. Really, the truth that you're spitting there, because I mean, this guy, he is a rat, and I think many Latinos can see that, and Puerto Ricans, because Puerto Ricans, we have a different relationship to the U.S. Due to our colonial status and due to the particular history we have with the U.S. I would say overall in our more progressive sects that yeah, we are totally against this guy. We're appalled by the things that he has to say. But what's really alarming is when you talk to in Latino community and that I've encountered, who island estadistas, who are Ricans that want Puerto Rico to be a part of the United States and want it to be a state, and those people, they think Trump is great. They think he's awesome because a lot of them possess a great deal of racism themselves. Puerto Rico can be a very racist society, and there are a lot of sects of Latino groups from various countries, from all the countries in Latin America, who have a lot of racism and who have a lot of hatred toward their own people, and even toward, there are a lot of them who they're here in the States and they look down on the ones that are still in Latin America. There was a really fascinating article written about that in Salon. It was published a couple months ago, and I've seen it myself in person, from my own family members, from friends of friends, and that is where it's that minority within a minority that it's really easy for us on the left to ignore them or to just think he's and jokers. It's themselves. They join forces and they self-identify with these same white supremacists, and they hold a lot of the same views as them. Or they're just totally Uncle Tom in it with them. If they are all passionate about voting and passionate about getting this person into office, whereas on the left we have a candidate that for many doesn't inspire that kind of passion, well, passion wins out. 100% of the time, passion wins out. Whoever has the momentum with their followers, those followers show up to vote. So, I'm kind of Maximo is saying, but he's absolutely right. If we just get complacent, we're Latinos, and so all of us are going to think alike, that's not true. That's not true. There's plenty that will think like us, but there's a whole lot of them that are right towing the line with Donald Trump.
Okay, go ahead.
No problem with it.
Yeah, and I have talked to some Latino Trump supporters. Fortunately, the Latinx community is woke, and I don't think many of them are voting for Donald Trump because they can see through his lies and his rhetoric. If you watched the convention last night when Donald Trump gave his nod to the LGBT community, that was probably the first time that he actually vocalized and said the LGBT sentence, because it looked foreign to him. It looked like he never might have said it before. But many Latino Trump supporters that I've come across have told me, look, he's not part of the political establishment. Hillary is. They've also said that they believe him. They feel like he is genuine when he's talking to them. But I've got to disagree there. Listen, all of the things that that Donald Trump was talking about, he can't deliver. I mean, look, you can't tell folks, hey, I'm going to give you jobs, I'm going to bring the economy back, I'm going to take care of veterans, we're going to stop the war, we're going to bring law and order. Okay, well, tell us how you're going to do it. anybody that's a leader, anybody that's been inside of office, you know that it's very, very hard to deliver on some of these things. And I don't care if you're the president, because Barack Obama, for all of his negative sides, has tried to deliver. He has tried to deliver on many, many aspects, but he can't, because Congress is sticking it to the guy. And I got a hypothesis about why they may be sticking it to Obama. But look, why does it got to be that way? Why do we got to play politics like that? You know, and it's a shame. So Donald Trump, again, he's a con artist, he's a snake, and he can't deliver. Anybody that actually knows, again, from a leadership perspective, they know it's very difficult to deliver on some of the things that he's mentioned, and he's not telling people how he's going to do it, and his supporters don't care.
Okay, so let me ask the question to both of you. And the idea is that there's this rhetoric of hate. You know, it keeps coming up. It's, you know, it's them against us. They all want to kill us. You know, I'm not putting words in his mouth. I mean, he's saying it. You know, everyone wants to be out there killing us. We have to fend for ourselves. What is your take on this issue? Who wants to take it on first?
Well, when you look at what was said during the convention, and especially during Donald Trump's speech, I mean, his convention speech, like if that was the America we're living in, somebody needs to get me off of whatever drugs that I'm on that's allowing me to. He was painting a picture of just a complete apocalyptic wasteland for a country, and I think. But you know, it's so easy to look at this convention that just occurred and be like, oh, it was totally over the top and it was unprecedented or whatever. But you know, I remember watching the 2000 convention, 2004, the 2008, 2012. Republicans have always had this this rhetoric, with the exception of 2004 because they were in power. But they always have this rhetoric whenever a Democrat is in office that America is falling apart. And it's, you know, it's one step close to a civil war or to nuclear war or whatever, catastrophe. And Donald Trump's just took that to the 10th power. And I think, you know, when you're talking about promises on him, and Maximo's totally right, like a president in a lot of ways is a figurehead. You know, no matter how much you promise, you got to work with Congress. So unless Donald Trump is looking to get rid of the Congress, he's going to have a hard time. Getting some of this stuff done. But what's really key when you listen to Donald Trump and when you listen to some of those other RNC speakers is the lack of detailed solution. There's only an outline of a solution. There's no details. And the thing is that, you know, I actually think that a lot of his followers don't care. They don't care, and they might not even care that it doesn't actually get done. All that they want to see is for the system to blow up, because in their minds, the system isn't working for them. Even if those of us outside of their bubble are like, what are you talking about? You're the ones who benefit from the system. They don't see it themselves. And so emotion, I mean, they've done study emotion versus fact, and emotion matters more to do often with Trump. And that's what you've seen with this speech.
That makes a lot of sense, the whole idea of emotions playing into it, especially, you know, from an author's point of view, how important it is to stir that up. Maximo?
Yeah, you know, Donald Trump himself has created more division in 1 year. You know that old saying, you take 3 steps forward, you take 7 steps back, or whatever it may be, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. That's exactly what Donald Trump, that's exactly what he's done. He has empowered and incited a population of racists, of elitists, of classists in this country that have continued on the pathway of all the other negative things, Islamophobia in this country, homophobia, transphobia. And he'll tell you one thing, but behind closed doors, let me tell you, the guy's a snake. Again, he mentioned the LGBT community last night. He's a guy that will smile in your face because he can get something out of it. That's what business people do. They try to use you to see how they can get what they want from you. What he's trying to get from people now is their votes. He wants their votes, so he's going to pander. He's going to give you the lip service. He's going to tell you what you want to and it's completely backwards. Again, it's clear as day to me. Look, I ain't come here to spread no rhetoric or narrative about myself, but I'm from the south side of Lansing, Michigan, and I know a snake when I see one. I'm from the streets, all right? The guy's a fraud. He's a fraud. You could tell already that the guy has some sort of attention deficit disorder because he can't for very long. He jumps around topic to topic, and many people that know him closely say he can't focus on one thing. Usually that happens to people like him who surrounds themselves with a bunch of yes men, a bunch of people who work for you, and you're at the top. Well, guess what? Running the United States is not a reality show. It's not a business. Sure, there are some components and aspects you may want to run like a business, but you can't just run around and be capitalists and stomp on the little man. That's what he's trying to do. That's exactly what he would be doing. And he's in for a rude awakening if he does make it. And listen, folks, we need to really prep ourselves and kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to survive in a Donald Trump America? How are we going to make it? Because if you think it's bad right now, man, I might wake up with a horse's head in my bed in January and them cops in the street blasting people.
I like the point that you made. I hadn't thought of that one. It's moved out of the political realm. It's become an entertainment show.
Sure.
And, one of you mentioned the idea that all the comical things that have come out and resulted from it, and so that sort of runs through my mind now. It's a reality show. Your thoughts, Jonathan?
Yeah, no, I think that that for sure the way he's run his campaign, the way he's gotten free press, and he's really I think one of the stories, after this election, no matter how it goes, one of the big stories is going to be how Donald Trump exposed the media for the bunch of hacks that they can be, when they're just chasing ratings instead of scrutinizing public figures the way they're supposed to be. I mean, he has shown how media can fail in this election cycle with giving so much free publicity to this man and free marketing. One thing is, Donald Trump is full of lies. Occasionally he says the truth. Broken clock is right twice a day, right? This one time he did say how he's gotten untold millions of free marketing because anytime he says something, the press gives him free airtime, and he's used that. So that in a way is giving into this sensibility of a reality program of, okay, we're going to do spectacle to get ratings. But what he's going to find is that when you're dealing with people's lives, the spectacle is very potentially their deaths, because you just made a really stupid move and started a war or incited a riot or any number of awful, horrible things. You poisoned water supplies. We already see Republicans are very good at poisoning black people's water supplies. And then, what about the cops? These guys were so much on law and order during
We're having some technical issues. He's in Colorado, and the reception is not always the best up there.
How out of control will these police officers be? We already feel like they're out of control. Hello?
Yeah, and the community has always felt that also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Go ahead, Maximo.
You mentioned Flint, Michigan, and poisoning folks' water supply. It's a wonder that Donald Trump didn't select Governor Snyder to be his vice president. Fits right in line with the type of folks that they're looking for. The other thing is, look, let's be honest. Donald Trump is a troll. He is what they call on the internet a social media troll, and it's worked for him. Listen, he thinks he can one-up folks and give a smart talk or a smart remark here and be witty and think that's going to win people over. And look, in his defense, it's worked well. He's spoken to his populace and he's won these folks over. Listen, he beat out some pretty experienced candidates for the Republican nomination.
Good point.
But it also doesn't take away from the fact what you were talking about with the media. Look, no offense to anybody in the media that works for the mainstream media. There's a lot of good folks over there. But this has got to be the most lucrative political season ever in the history of this country, because Donald Trump, look what he brings with him. He brings ratings, he brings headlines, he brings all of these things that the media makes money off of. So they're going to cover him. They're going to cover him. And look at the drama that's been set up this year. He's squaring off against Hillary Clinton, a former, business partner, so to speak, of his. You can see photos of them popping up all over the internet. And they're probably going to dinner tonight. On the cameras, they look like mortal enemies. Who knows? However, it's set up for a huge story Hollywood movie. They're going to make a movie on this whole thing one day, and it's going to be the best movie in the history of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I like the perspective. Yeah. You both are sharing ideas that I had never considered on the AI aspect, and you're opening up our mindsets on what is possible here. As we're getting close to closing this discussion, this forum, I'd like to give both of you a time to sort of your closing statements. And Maximo, why don't you go ahead? Go first.
Hey, look, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys. Always glad to connect, and hopefully we'll be able to share this throughout social media to get people aware. And if you're viewing this for the first time, if you've never seen me, if you've never met any of these gentlemen, just let it be known that you need to vote. Your vote matters. Folks, somebody's going to win the election anyway. Who do you want it to be? Even if you don't vote, Donald Trump's policies are going to affect you in some way and I don't want to be the guy to say I told you so, but we got to get not only to the polls, but we also need to get into office, because representation matters. We need to be sitting in offices representing our communities, and it can be done. The old phrase, si se puede, has never been more timely. It can be done. You can do it. We can do it, and we got to vote, folks. Your voice matters, not only this political season, but throughout the entire year. Civically engaged, our community needs to be. The Latino, the Latinx community is the future in this country. We're the new Americans, so to speak, and it's about time that you might see a brown man or a brown woman in office, and perhaps in the White House, and who knows? It could be me, it could be you, but we got to keep going. We got to go and be heard. So that's about the best I got right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Maximo. Jonathan?
Yeah, for having me on. It was great talking with Maximo about this. Really love your ideas, your energy. So it's not to repeat the things he already said, because I think Maximo said it beautifully. But let me just put it out there that what Donald Trump has unleashed doesn't end with him. There's going to be more politicians like him, because he just opened the door to people at the congressional to act a fool just like him and be rats just like him and promise the same kind of hateful ideology. There is I believe he's a Senate candidate, he's a congressional candidate over in Tennessee. He's already putting up sites saying "Make America White Again." Like that's what this guy's doing to promote himself. And you're going to see more and more of that. Even if Donald Trump, even if there's a massive loss on the Republican side this year, he has shown that a bigot can get far. And it's up to us. It's up to us, brown and black people and Asian people and white allies, to step in and shut the door on those people and be like, no, Donald Trump, let him be the first and the last. We're not going to tolerate this. We're not going to allow our society to devolve into this sort of bigotry. And the only way that we do that is by participating in society. And that doesn't always mean for elected office. It just means engaging your communities. Get off your computers and engage your communities. Go out there and volunteer for civic organizations, or local events, and show this community, because what allows bigotry to persist is when people don't have an alternate to their preconceived notions. And so be that alternate, be that example for potential bigots out there, and even people who are already established bigots out there, to be like, oh, well, not all gays are this way, not all Latinos are this way, not all blacks are this way, not all Asians.
Absolutely.
Be that example. And be that example for your, like, hey, we don't have to fall into the lines, not just when there's an election, but every day.
It's an everyday task. I want to thank again Maximo Anguiano and Jonathan Marcantoni, who are joining us through cyberspace and the whole system to be able to be here in today's show. And I'd like to add something, but I want to sort of work off the wonderful ideas that I heard from both of you. Absolutely, the Maximo raised the point also. You have to vote. It's not a popularity contest. It's not whether we talk more or talk less about it. It's the vote on November that really is going to count. That's essential. I pick up also from Jonathan, who mentions the idea that this is not the end. If anything, it's opening the door and inviting other bigots to be also taking on the platforms and think that they can also carry and duplicate the success that Trump has been able to carry. And there's one last thing that I want to add that I don't think I've heard from many persons, and I'm going to push this, and this is one of my personal points of motivation, and that is participate in media. If you can be on radio, if you can be on TV and local shows, you get an invitation. If you don't, send them a letter that says, you know, I want to add my perspective to your show instead of just sitting at home and watching it on the internet. Is that we can be proactive, we can participate in media as these two gentlemen are today, and be able to say, hey, here's my thoughts, this is my ideas, you may or may not agree with them, but you know, let's continue the conversation and then let's take this into some form of action. So on that behalf, I want to applaud both of you. I hope that in the near future we also have women on the show and get their perspective as Latinas as well on the program. Again, I want to say gracias to Maximo and Jonathan. Thank you, and I look forward to having you guys on future panels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Muchas gracias. And this will be webcast and podcast, webcast only around the world. And we invite your thoughts and ideas. You can contact me at lsacnational@hotmail.com. If you want to share any thoughts that you want me to pass them on to these two wonderful speakers, please don't hesitate to write me, and I'll forward everything to them as well. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm Armando F. Sanchez, CEO, Armando F. Sanchez Production. And let's continue the dialogue. Let's go out there. Let's vote. Let's participate. Let's be civic-minded. And let's make this a better country. Thank you. Adios.